Okay, hi, and welcome to all my lovely listeners and fans and watchers and whatnot to Moral High Ground. And today I'm just going to be talking about what's morally right, yes, but at the same time, today I'm talking about prophecy. I'm talking about more something based in Revelation. Because, like the title I made a couple days back, I truly believe we're in the last days. So I'm talking about a certain thing that's in the Revelation prophecy that has to do with dragons. So this episode is called The Great Dragon. And if you can see on the screen, it says Chinese scientists create dragon clones, dragons, leviathan, and flying serpents. And the one title or one phrase in there that catches the eyes is Leviathan. Because in the Bible, in Revelation, Leviathan is the creature that comes to kill people. It's in the sea. Somewhere after Revelations 12, I believe. But the thing is, I want to get into this because this is another abomination created by scientists. It's super science at its best or worst. And like I said, we have to study things and make sure it's beneficial to all mankind if we're going to do science. And I don't think scientists nowadays actually care about the beneficial property. They just want to do things just to do it. But once again, this show is supported by Spotify. It's on Pocket Cast, Google Podcast, Radio Public, and Apple Podcast. And I'm a little sick. And you can also see this on SOK Universe, my YouTube channel, capital SOK and Universe. And if you guys like my work and like listening to it and whatnot, subscribe, leave comments. If you want to support financially, go to my Amazon shop, SOK, or Amazon/shop/Shelby Kyles. To check out something, buy something, whatever. Look and check something out. Buy something from Amazon through my store, and it will help me survive to make more stuff because I'm getting really low. The whole economic crisis is bringing me down. But anyway, so what we're going to talk about is those dragons, and we're going to get into it because, well, this is another science that could actually destroy mankind. So here we go.
Reports have come out that scientists in China have cloned dragons. Before I get into that story, I want to look at historical and biblical accounts of claimed mythological creatures to show that the world in our ancient past is more strange than we're told. In the book of Job, chapter 41, verses 18 through 21, talking about the Leviathan, an ancient creature that was alive on the earth, the references of it sound very similar to that of a dragon. It says, "His sneezings flash forth light, and his eyes are like the eyelids of the morning. Out of his mouth go burning lights, sparks of fire shoot out. Smoke goes out of his nostrils as from a boiling pot, and burning rushes. His breath kindles coals, and a flame goes out of his mouth." There's also historical accounts of strange creatures in the earth in the ancient past. In 330 BC, Alexander the Great reportedly saw a dragon while invading India.
So these are stories that's said all the time referring to dragons. Heard Alexander the Great 1 billion times. That half of a photo you saw was not even the full photo. There's like these red dragons that are getting brought through town in cages and stuff. And Alexander the Great witnessed them. Leviathan story with Job is a definite wannabe story about dragons. I can't even say wannabe because the Bible's pretty much accurate when it comes to historical events. At the same time, because everything has to do with all the other cultures that's involved with the Hebrew and Israelites, which would be Egyptian, Roman, and so forth and so on. But anyway, so what they were saying a minute ago about the historical nature of these creatures is just tells, like, I mean, the reason why I say they're just tells is because they created science. They made clones of these creatures. And the thing about it is we don't know nothing about these creatures except for looking at historical documents and historical texts. And by doing so, we're able to understand what may occur with these creatures. Now, I said in a video recently about gene splicing, and this is exactly what it is. For you to bring this creature forth, and there's none of its kind around, you have to be able to slice its genes with something of a similar nature. So most reptiles, it's proven fact that reptiles can grow till the day they die and keep growing. Our atmosphere can't contain it because it's not as it was in previous prehistoric Earth. So they stay small. Dinosaurs really haven't died off. They just can't grow to the mass proportions because the climate isn't the way it was in the beginning. And so what's going on here is you got these tiny little dragons that they created. And so, anyway, in here, in this, hopefully in the beginning of this, they're talking about the prophecies of dragons. And it's just, it's a threat to humanity, even though Asian culture is pretty much always around dragons and certain types of creatures. And I think they hold it stronger than any other culture has. They pretty much, like Greeks, pretty much got rid of all their mythological gods and just uses it as stories of their people, things like that. A lot of cultures have, but China holds strong to them. So,
described a hissing creature that was living in a cave, which the local people worshipped as a god. When his army passed by the cavern, the dragon hissed and snorted furiously, terrifying them all. It was said that the creature was about 100 feet in length, and its eyes were the size of a round Macedonian shield. Flavius Philostratus, the 3rd century historian, provided a very detailed account of dragons as well. He reported in India that there were swarms of enormous dragons. Some inhabited the marshes, while others lived on mountaintops. He reported that the dragons that lived in the marshes were 45 feet long, sluggish in their manner, and had no crests on the top of their heads. Ancient artifacts from around the world show creatures that resemble that of dragons or dinosaurs. These are all civilizations that are said to not have any contact with each other. So strange that these artifacts and resemblances showed up all around the world at around the same time. In the 12th century,
so I just have to pause because that's an ongoing thing with other cultures, ancient societies, and lost cultures, where they talk about having similar connections to certain things. And people always say dinosaurs were around before humans, but yet a dragon is the difference. Shoot, a dragon is like the oddball out of the bunch. It can be here with humans or without. And so the thing is, can you mistake that for a dinosaur? And the old term for dinosaur was dragon, until it was changed in the 1800s to dinosaur, terrible thunder lizards. And so now we just call them dinosaurs. It's cool for little kids. After you get older, they don't talk about it no more unless you're obsessed with Jurassic Park. And I only seen the first one. So,
one of Cambodia's largest temple complexes, Angkor Wat, there's a depiction of what looks to be a scale-type large reptile. In 1944, an enormous cache of ceramic figurines were discovered by a German immigrant, Waldemar Julsrud, in Mexico. The Ica stones of Peru, discovered in the 1960s, also show what look to be large reptile creatures on them. In Utah, the Anasazi Native Americans also drew a petroglyph of what resembles a large reptile-type creature. In the book of Revelation, chapter 12, verse 9, it says, "So the great dragon was cast out, that serpent of old called the devil and Satan, who deceives the whole world. He was cast to the earth, and his angels were cast out with him." When the fallen angels were cast to the earth, their manipulation of DNA with humans as well as animals created giants and monsters. We know this from Genesis 6:12, talking about the fallen angels mating with earth women.
You're talking about Nephilims here, so Nephilims is the Hebrew term for giant, and Greek term is Titan. And so these are the two terms that are always used separate from the word giant itself. But the whole thing with the great dragon was cast down and his followers was cast down with him. It's a deliberate term for Satan, being the ultimate serpent. And this is why we got flying serpents on the thing. But that's exactly what it means, that Lucifer was able to transform not just from an angel, but into a great dragon. And so, with that being said, then that means Eve didn't talk to a snake in the Garden of Eden, she talked to a dragon. That's just my opinion.
And creating giants. The book of Giants also references this, saying, "They begot giants and monsters. They begot, and behold, all the earth was corrupted." Also, in the book of Enoch, and the book of Enoch and the book of Giants, I view to be historical type texts, not on the same level as scripture, but still could tell us an accurate representation of history. It says in Enoch 7 verses 4 and 5, "And when men could no longer sustain them, the giants turned against them and devoured mankind. And they began to sin against birds and beasts and reptiles and fish, to devour one's flesh and drink the blood." This reference here could be talking about the giants devouring these creatures, but when it says that they sinned against them, it could also be referencing what the book of Giants tells us, that they were having sexual relations with them, creating monsters the same way that they created giants with earth women.
So, one thing here, so we're going to go on and on about biblical texts and ancient texts and stuff for a minute until they actually get to the science part of this thing. But the thing is that you can't talk about dragons. It's one of them creatures that, I mean, you can, but I'm saying you can't talk about it without talking about ancient texts of any kind, because every culture around the world admits of having dragons. Some form of a dragon, some form of a fusor, like a minotaur or a centaur. They got some kind of ancient creature. And if you believe in the Christian belief of Noah, then you know that everything was wiped out under the flood. That was considered an abomination of God. That was ungodly. So what this is happening is making an abomination come back to life that is well documented in ancient world and bringing it back to our world. And it comes at a funny time because prophecies have been being fulfilled. And so I think the thing that people miss when it comes to believing in God and believing in faith is to understand that prophecy holds a big key. It's all through the Bible, it's all through all kinds of stuff. A prophecy will be fulfilled. The prophecy of Christ's return, Jesus' return, has to do with a lot of different scenarios. The 4 horsemen already been here, and they came in 2020. They gave us pestilence, they gave us famine, and gave us death, and he rode upon a pale horse, and so it's like, hey, you had the angels, destroying all kinds of stuff. It says in Revelation, hurt not the land nor the sea, and one angel stepped forth and says, well, actually, the one angel stepped forth and said that to all the other angels that were trying to destroy the world. And what I'm saying with this is a natural disaster that's been happening across the globe, the chaos that's been happening with people. So we're somewhere towards the end, and this is just another video I'm playing because we're at a part now where Israel's being attacked. And if you know your prophecies of Revelation, Jesus is about to come once Israel's attacked. Let's talk about Israel uniting and becoming one nation again, and then they talk about the destruction of Israel by every nation in the world trying to come to fight it at war. And this is where we're at. People have been so worried about Ukraine and Russia, but that's the most confusing thing to me, because they got Russia working with America for some space exploration, but yet America is funding Ukraine to fight against Russia. So it makes no sense. And then if Ukraine attacks Russia the wrong way, they're talking about it on the news. So it makes no sense. But Israel is a very important thing, because by prophecy, once Israel will be attacked by everybody else in the world, then that means the end is near, and Christ will appear, and those that are good are supposed to go up, and those that are evil are supposed to stay here with Satan for judgment.
Book of Job 40, 15 through 24, it also references a large creature whose identity is not fully known, named the behemoth, saying he eats grass like an ox, his strength is in his hips, a large type creature whose tail is like a cedar. Ezekiel 29 verse 3 also says, "Speak and say, thus says the Lord God, Behold, I am against you, O Pharaoh king of Egypt, O great monster who lies in the midst of his rivers, who has said, My river is my own, I have made it for myself." Earth's ancient history has lots of references to monsters and strange unknown creatures. The Bible tells us that there's nothing new under the sun, so what happened in the past most likely will be happening again in the future. That's where we get to this story about scientists creating dragon clones in a laboratory in Beijing.
So where we're at right now, okay, this is the part I was talking about, because, he's right. It's supposed to be nothing new created underneath the sun. Things have been created before, has been done. Only things that's not new that's been created has been created by man, like petroleum. There's plastic everywhere, stuff like that. The petroleum products, stuff like that. But the thing is, it makes me think about a certain sci-fi show. And I pondered this before it even came out on the show, because there were certain things that was from the past that seem similar in current modern times, and not within the past 5 years, but within my lifetime, that I said, I wonder if we're, the end, and then we come back to the beginning and it starts over again. So even if you was to build these leviathans, these dragons, if you will, and bring them back, then that means they're going to bring a lot of other abominations back, or creatures back. America has been researching and trying to bring back the dodo bird through breeding with its relative, which is a turkey, and trying to make embryos with dodo DNA. And they've been trying to do the same thing with the woolly mammoth by mixing it with the African elephant, which is the larger elephant compared to the Thai elephant, which is actually a fun little, elephant that works side by side with humans. But they're trying to bring the woolly mammoth back through a mother that gives birth to a woolly mammoth by putting her embryo with mammoth DNA. And so none of this has occurred yet, but it's been talked about for the past, I think when I first heard this research of gene splicing in that way, which really isn't, it's more like a relative giving birth to another relative. I know it sounds sick, but because African elephant and woolly mammoth are actually related in some way. And the turkey isn't really like the dodo, because dodos kind of look like toucan, sand, and stuff, but they are related in some form. So the thing is, genetically wise, it is similar to being able to bring these creatures back. And so this has been a theory going on, I want to say, I first found out about it in 2015 or 16, and I was like, whoa, I read a science article. I can't remember the scientist that published the article. I was really into reading the scientific journals now, and it's a little bit beyond that now, some of the stuff I read back then. But anyway, this is a curse and a blessing. It's a blessing because, wow, this means no species can truly die. The extinction thing is now considered a joke, in a way, when it comes to animals anyway. It means animals of any kind can come back, But here's the thing, they're bringing back animals that died with the pure DNA. So it's like, how can you make the pure DNA come back? Now maybe if you just take two of these dragons and breed them together, it will be stronger DNA, more powerful, and this is where I get all obsessed with the genome code, where the one dragon's DNA and other dragon's DNA comes together and strengthens and makes a purebred dragon, Or they could take whatever lizards that they done bred with the dragon and it becomes that lizard again. So it's really odd. So it's just like you have a creature now that can have multiple options of what it can be when it gives birth. You either give birth to a bearded dragon, which is just a little walking thing you can buy at a pet store, or a water dragon which sticks on walls like Geico guy, or you can just have a freaking dragon with wings and that shoots fire and shit. So it's just a weird thing. So this research with animal gene splicing is actually unique and interesting. So there's certain other animals that could be brought back too. If I remember right, there was a horse that they're trying to bring back. It was half zebra, half horse, and they wanted to bring that back through a zebra or something like that. There's many different animals you can do this with if you find their descendant or ancestor, their ancestor animal and whatever. But anyway, going back to what we're trying to get into, this weird super science that might doom us all by biblical prophecy.
A recent video was trending on TikTok showing these images of what looks to be a laboratory with scientists in China holding dragon-like creatures. It's said that this laboratory is in Beijing and they used CRISPR technology to gene splice these animals and create these dragon clones.
Yeah, see, that's what I'm saying. So now you know that I'm not just making up something when I say gene splicing. Because this is the thing, the theory that goes around in my mind constantly is a genome and gene splicing. Because I ponder certain things, and there's laws against humanity, or laws for people that go against humanity. And I'm not saying I'm trying to go against humanity, but there's things I wonder about humanity, and it all has to break down to the genome code. One of it being giant people. Okay, and we're just heard a whole scripture of Genesis 6. The sons of God fall in love with the daughters of man and found that they were beautiful and took wives of them and gave birth to the Nephilim. Nephilims were the hero of men of renounce, which means men that believe in mythological creatures and things like that, mythological gods. And so that's, if you read it, it's going to say that. But anyway, so my point is, I ponder, because you have people who are over 6 feet tall, 7 feet tall. I just watched a YouTube video with this giant Russian girl. She's like, I don't know, she said she was 6'9", but then the title said she was 7 foot, and she was with a dude that was 5'7", making him pretend to be her boyfriend, which he wouldn't have to pretend. That's a tight thing, a hot chick that's giant, and yeah, it's pretty hot. But I've always pondered, and I think it has to do with my childhood obsession with a movie called Moonraker. And Moonraker, the dude was trying to take over the world. James Bond was trying to stop him, of course. And he was trying to get to the moon. He had a big moon base on the moon. And he wanted to he wanted to have two of every kind, like Noah. But he wanted two of every kind. He wanted two of every perfect culture or whatever it was. But I expanded beyond that. What if you took a woman that was like I said, a woman that's like 7 foot tall, 6'9", and she took a dude with her that's at least 8 feet tall. And I don't know how big Shaq is now, or what's that dude's name that used to play the Asian dude, Wang Ming or some shit like that. But anyway, you take him and a girl that's like 7 foot tall, they bred, and the kids would be like a little bit, have to be at least 9 feet tall, I would assume, or 10 feet tall. And so you can go on and on with this if you just keep breeding up. So if you had a kid, let's say they had a kid and the kid was 9 feet tall, or 9'1", okay? And so then you take a guy that's 9'1", and you mix it with a girl that's 8 feet tall, you should at least have a kid that comes to at least 12 feet tall. This is what I'm pondering scientifically. It's a theory. It's a genetic theory. And so I would believe something similar would have to happen with this gene splicing thing with these dinosaurs or dragons. Get my stuff correct here. But with these dragons, I would have to believe you would have to use a bigger reptile. And so I would have to say they would have to use a Komodo dragon and add wings to a Komodo dragon and stuff. It would probably be a different type of species altogether. If not a Komodo dragon, the very biggest reptile that walks around all over Earth is freaking gators and crocodiles. And so it would have to be something, and it'd be tight if Godzilla came about, because I'm obsessed with Godzilla, and most people like King Kong, but He's just an ape. We got enough apes walking around. So it's like, I want to see something like, I wouldn't do it loud, but it wake my fucking neighbors up. Plus I'm sick. I would do the street, but I do it accurate. The whole Godzilla yell thing. But I would assume it would make a bigger reptile. So you have to grow up in DNA. You have to grow up in genetics. And you have to find a similar genetic code. And things will grow a certain way. And it's just me talking. You can ignore it. I'm not a licensed scientist. I'm a homemade scientist, let's put it this way. My genetic knowledge on gene splicings and genetic embryos together, all that stuff, it comes from a lot of reading and stuff. So don't give up on anything. If you like something, you're interested, read about it. But it all started from me watching Moonraker when I was a kid. It's the same thing with my plant theories. I can go on and on about plants and carbon-14 and blocking out certain rays and gamma rays and X-rays and beta rays and yada yada yada. And I go on into talking about a whole different concept. But that's a whole nother thing. And actually I made a show about it already in the Green New Deal. My Mental Monologue is a show. It's called Green New Deal. It's on my playlist on my YouTube channel if you ever want to watch it on SLK Universe. So anyway, back to what I'm talking about. I'll shut up. Let's hear from the real scientists, I guess.
CRISPR technology is gene editing and splicing of two animals' genes together to create a hybrid type creature, similar to what the Book of Giants said the fallen angels were doing. The video on TikTok said that these creatures actually started to attack these scientists and that they had a highly venomous bite. Now, while looking more at these pictures and this story, the high likelihood here is that these are AI generated images, but of course.
So that's something, that's really something, because, okay, you got, let's say they did do that, let's say this is happening, and if this is the case, that's pretty dangerous. That's already saying they created abominations against mankind. They created something that will kill people when they breed. It's like a horror movie, super.
Now, while looking more at these pictures and this story, the high likelihood here is that these are AI generated images, but of course you can make up your own mind on that. It doesn't change the fact of what the Bible says of Earth's ancient past and the type of creatures that said existed back then. This article from 2016 says that could scientists create dragons using CRISPR gene editing, talking about how within it it's not impossible. They could take the genes from a Komodo dragon and find another creature, say something that flies, splice the two together, and create a dragon clone. These types of things are going.
Yeah, I'm gonna go back a bit because I just talked about exactly what I was explaining, and I want to hear the year again. It kind of just, I don't know, my computer be tripping. But the thing about it is, this is what I'm talking about: creating abominations against God. If God created it, there's some perfect perfection in it. Even if a person comes out deaf or missing a limb or something, there's a lesson to be learned there to make people more humble, more caring, and more understanding. The problem with our culture, our people, humans, is we have this great wickedness inside us. And it's put there by the feelings we have as a child of rejection, complex issues with family members, all kinds of not being accepted, not being understood, not being respected, all these different things. It makes this combination of rage within a person. It makes them lash out, which can be contained if that person can feel that joy. We all want to be happy. We all want to feel that joy, that happiness. And this is where God comes in, and people say, you need God in your life. Because once you feel that bliss, that grace, all that washes away. All that stuff that seems important seems meaningless. Like, I used to drink a hell of a lot, smoke a lot of pot, and it just doesn't make any sense once I obtained a lot of knowledge or reading a lot of stuff. And the way I live my life now is so odd, is because people will, once I speak the way I'm speaking now, and they go, oh, you're smart, this is, all this crap. But to me, I don't feel that way because I feel there's still a lot to learn. And if I was superiorly smart, then, I would have that false arrogance everyone else has where they're like, yeah, I'm better than you. How can people walk around like that and not realize that there's still more stuff to learn and that they're making fools of themselves? So that's an issue. And so another thing, too, is that I learned, it's just like I felt like a lot of stuff was just meaningless, just washed away. What's the point of being drunk and stoned all the damn time when, you can always be caught off guard because there's always people trying to take advantage of you. There's always something that has to be done. You have to think of something, you have to plan it out right. Sometimes I overplan things out because I'm kind of a researcher, so it's just weird. And then it's like the ultimate thing is trying to find pleasure with a mate. And before I used to be with all kinds of women, and it's like I fall, go to a party, end up with a girl, and that doesn't work. I'm dating a friend or whatever, and I meet a girl here or there. I've been all over the place with relationships. But then when I truly fell in love, it was with the wrong person. And it took everything from me. And so it was just like, now I've been on this whole thing where, because I always got a thing where I find damn near every woman attractive and fall in love. So the old me's still there, like, hey, baby, yeah, what's happening, But at the same time, I'm sitting there like, what did she just say? What's going on? Oh, hell with this. She ain't gonna play games with me. I ain't gonna go to jail for her or anybody. And so that's where I'm at. And it's been so long, it's just like, it doesn't matter because I got hobbies and things and stuff that keeps my mind going, keeps me satisfied. But that ultimate passion and desire to be with the opposite sex is still there. And so that's the natural order of things. But what makes it ungodly when it comes to society is the fact that so many people have been or imprinted with belief systems that does not make sense to mating, to love, to happiness, to joy. And because of this ignorance, it just makes them chaotic. And my point of view is that people need to take the time to understand themselves way better before they believe something that doesn't make any sense. And this is where this comes in. It doesn't make any sense to bring something that ultimately, by legends, says is a dangerous creature. And if they bred this thing, then this makes this the most dangerous creation to come about in God knows how long. Even more dangerous than technology itself, because it can fly. And if it can fly, that means it could be anywhere at any point in time. It just depends on how fast or speed it can fly. Ultimately, it probably wouldn't wouldn't be able to fly the speed of sound, which is over 400 miles per hour or something like that. But still, if it does, then that's even more dangerous. So pretty much you're living in a cyberpunk era. So I don't know. It kind of went everywhere, but thanks for having patience and listening. What is happening?
These types of things are going on now. There's a company called Colossal that's trying to use the old DNA found from a woolly mammoth and bring that creature back to life. And it's said that they will do that within the next few years. An article from 2019 on China Daily says hybrid rice, cloned monkeys, and mythical dragons, talking about CRISPR technology and gene and DNA manipulation that they are using to create these things currently in China. Here's another article from 2019. Chinese scientist who genetically edited babies gets 3 years in prison. I don't think it's a coincidence.
Because that's a crime against humanity to make clone human babies, but they've been doing things with human DNA for a minute, obviously, because we just watched a video the other day where they're trying to make a chamber full of like Kryptonian fucking Super Saiyan babies and wipe the rest of us out, and have neural implants within them. So it's a crazy scientific super science world.
coincidence that in Earth's ancient past in China, Europe, the Americas, and Australia, dragon stories started popping up all around the world, with civilizations who were said to not have any contact with each other. Even the Chinese calendar has 12 different animals listed. Every single animal is an animal that we know exists: rabbits, tigers, rats, pigs, but they also have a dragon on there. Even the word America means the land of the plumed and feathered serpents. This is a name given by the Indians of Peru. Giant creatures that are said to have once been mythological have been proven to be true. The giant squid is one of these examples. For years it was taught that this is just a mythological creature, something similar to that of the kraken. But in 2002, the giant squid was finally captured alive for the first time, and off the coast of New Zealand they caught juvenile specimens as well. The world is stranger than we're led to believe in many areas. The Bible talks about our strange history and some of these, quote, mythological creatures that once existed in the world.
So, the thing is, this is, even if you don't believe scientists can make these things, it's happening. Because, like I said, they're just trying to experiment with all kinds of ways of science right now. Because we're at a state where we believe that we're more intelligent than the previous ancestors that we all come from. But in all reality, they might have been way smarter. People always talk about stuff going on in Egypt that they knew, and they were talking to aliens and all this shit. And they got ancient aliens and crap, which I don't dig too much. But at first I did, but after a while I started questioning stuff. Like, what the hell are they talking? Especially when they're talking about the samurai and the sword, and they're talking about Greek fire, okay, Constantine and all that. Like, get the hell out of here. And I'm not talking about the cartoon movies or freaking Keanu Reeves movie. I'm talking about the historical Constantine and stuff. So I know a lot of history. So yeah, but what I'm saying is, this is something that's really crazy, because this is like bringing the past to life, and we have to ponder what dark stuff that we're doing when they make any science. What things are they going to bring forth that could doom us all? And this is why even the term Leviathan is a good forewarning that bringing these dragons back is a bad thing. A creature that can literally annihilate anything it comes across. And plus, you've seen Lord of the Rings and the Hobbits and stuff, so you know what's going down.
I'll leave in the pinned comment and the description some Bible passages in reference to some of these strange creatures, so you can research it and read it for yourself and see what you think about what the Bible says about these strange creatures that once existed in the world. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Thanks for watching, and God bless.
Now, that's a good thing. Big shout out to this guy who made this video. It's very informative. It's very cool, and I would like to see more of his work, so support this. Just look for this title, Chinese scientists created clone dragons, and from there you can go into his, channel and support it. But, yeah, so that's just one thing. So then there's this other video they have of the Chinese people actually finding the prehistoric bones of a dragon. I'm about to say dinosaur. Same thing. But they find these dragon bones, and they're able to create something. There was also an article, I think it was 2010 or 11 maybe, where I read about Chinese people finding these bones, and they were calling it dragon bones, and they were making soup out of the bones. And they said it was actually a dinosaur, a Diplodocus or something. But this is like all crazy and interesting at the same time. And so I don't know what the whole purpose will be of creating these creatures, unless they're trying to fulfill a prophecy in Chinese culture, and a dragon has to be around, the Shin, which is called in Chinese. So anyway, let's see this. This is where they supposedly found dragon bones. My phone, my computer's tripping. I have no idea.
Zhangjiakou, China, in October 2017, something extraordinary unfolded in a rural community located 120 miles from Beijing. It all started when the residents stumbled upon a fascinating discovery in a field. an immense 60-foot set of bones. These bones belonged to a highly peculiar creature, unlike anything they had ever seen before. The locals believed that these bones belonged to an ancient dragon. Dragons hold great significance in Chinese culture, depicted in historical murals throughout the ages. However, scientists remained uncertain about the true nature of these remains. They couldn't conclusively identify the creature to which the bones belonged. Hence, the mystery surrounding these mysterious bones remains unsolved to this day.
So with that, that's another part where it's even more confusing. They finding creatures that are supposedly been extinct that they can't even identify. And if they can't identify it, they would have to do carbon dating, which means it died in a point in time before we lost the firmament. Once again, there's water above the firmament. I can go into biblical terms, but I believe you have to read it for yourself. It's actually in Genesis 2. So the thing about it is, you know, we didn't have carbon dating before C14 entered our atmosphere, which is constantly in our atmosphere, which shortens our lifespans as well as lifespans of other animals. Because like lots of us used to live hundreds of years, plants used to survive for long periods of time, but they don't because of all the rays we get from the sun. Hydrogen hits the sun and mutates into a form of carbon known as C14, carbon 14. And this is how you carbon date something, because once you eat a plant, you get carbon 14 within you. It is only if it's grown outside in the sun. Now, greenhouses are different because they block out certain lights. I don't know if carbon 14 is actually able to go through certain glass when you're in a greenhouse. I believe it wouldn't, because there's certain ones you can block out. So anyway, how much carbon 14 you take in through plants and stuff, you're able to, or vegetation period, you're able to carbon date how long something was alive. That's where carbon dating comes in. So if an animal cannot be identified both by historical texts as well as carbon dating, then this means it was a pre-change of the whole flood and the whole drowning of freaking the rain and whatnot. I just kind of got myself in a tongue twister. Pretty much it's predating the theory of prehistoric Earth and Pangea and all that. And so the thing about it is, so there has to be creatures older than we imagine. There's things old about this world that we don't know and don't understand. I don't care how much technology and how much science, super science, you try to do nowadays, because this is where we're at. We're at super science decade. We're not in back in the day, like, oh my God, we just made, radiation by toasting something way too much. That's how a chick actually created radiation, which means women are the ones that's cursing us all. But in all reality, it's a serious thing to think about. And so it's the core, once again, is this morally right to bring back creatures that God himself wiped out because they were abominations to his creations? And I would say it's morally wrong unless the creatures they're bringing back has a purpose that could benefit all of mankind and bring us all steadily forward into a prosperous future. I would think the main thing you would want to bring back and try to figure out would bring back vegetations that's went extinct. Like gopher wood, for instance, no one knows what the hell that is, but yet the ark was made out of it. And at the same time, the tree of knowledge is the tree of might. How do you bring this great tree that pretty much a lot of cultures change the name of all the time back? And what the hell is ambrosia? True ambrosia. How do we bring that back? How do we bring these certain plants? So I say certain vegetations must come about to, maybe it might be a medical miracle to find these vegetations that are no longer around, and especially in time periods where people were living hundreds and hundreds of years. In some cases, thousands. There's some people that live thousands, and we got to find a way to do that. I think vegetation is the first way to start, because we didn't start off as just meat-eating creatures. Because hell, if there's giant creatures running around like these dragons and stuff, then we had to eat what was able to get quick. You know, we had to find things that were dead, able to cook it up real quick and eat it. You know, we couldn't just go hunt in something that's fucking 30, 40 feet tall. We had to find a way to make it easier to survive. And so that's why picking berries and nuts and stuff like that made sense, you know, and it still does. But I believe it's morally wrong to wake the dead up and try to make them live a normal life. And that's what we're doing here by bringing things back that ain't right. And so it's morally wrong. And I believe, once again, if they keep creating things and making things that aren't thought through, aren't planned, because like the guy said, the scientists got attacked by these creatures after they made them. Highly doubt it, but don't know. But if that's the case, then obviously they're playing with the devil. You know, and I have to say, you know, you gotta mess with the devil you know and not the devil you don't. You know, better to be with the devil you don't know than the devil you know. Or I said it the other way around. Either way, that was told to me when I broke up with my ex. It's like, oh, you might as well stay with the devil you know and mess with the devil you don't. And I refused altogether, and so there's no devil females in my life. So that's where I'm at, because I refuse to put up with the bull at the games. And so even that is abomination and will be wiped out eventually, because we can't have all this hate and wickedness. We have to come together to fight against things like this that is being created. And with that being said, I'm just going to say peace be with you guys. Blessings upon you always. Until next time, you know.